The room fell strangely silent the moment our eyes met. Music still echoed through the old gymnasium, classmates laughed over forgotten memories, and glasses clinked in celebration, but none of it mattered anymore. Standing only a few feet away was the one person I had spent 15 years trying to forget. She smiled with a confidence that instantly pulled me back to the hardest chapter of my life. Then she slowly walked toward me, folded her arms, and with a knowing smirk asked, "Do you remember me?" In that single moment, every painful memory I had buried came rushing back, and I realized that some reunions don't reopen old friendships, they reopen old wounds. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, forgiveness, and second chances have the power to change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Dot. Your support helps us share more stories that remind the world compassion still exists. 15 years earlier, I had walked through the halls of Lincoln High School carrying far more than a backpack. My father had passed away when I was 13, leaving my mother to raise my younger sister and me while working 2 exhausting jobs. Most mornings I arrived at school wearing clothes that had been patched together more times than I could count. My shoes had holes hidden beneath carefully placed pieces of cardboard. I skipped lunch more often than I admitted because I wanted my little sister to have enough food waiting for her at home. I believed that education would be my escape, but every day felt like climbing a mountain with stones tied to my back. Among all my teachers, Mrs. Evelyn Harper was the one everyone admired. She was intelligent, respected, and known for pushing students toward excellence. Parents praised her discipline. Students feared disappointing her. At first, I admired her too. I believed she saw potential where others only saw grades. But that hope slowly disappeared. Whenever I forgot an assignment because I had worked late cleaning tables at a local diner, she assumed I was lazy. When I accidentally fell asleep during class after spending the night helping my mother care for my sick sister, she embarrassed me in front of everyone. She once held up my unfinished project and said some people would always choose excuses over effort. The classroom erupted with uncomfortable laughter, and although she never mentioned my family's struggles directly, every word felt aimed at the life I couldn't escape. What she never knew was that after school I wasn't playing games or hanging out with friends. I was washing dishes until midnight, delivering newspapers before sunrise, and trying desperately to keep my family together. Pride kept me silent. I didn't want pity. I only wanted someone to ask why. The hardest day came during my senior year. A scholarship interview was scheduled for the same morning my mother collapsed from exhaustion at work. I rushed her to the hospital, staying beside her until doctors assured me she would recover. By the time I reached school, the interview had ended. Mrs. Harper simply shook her head and reminded me that successful people learn to prioritize responsibility. She never asked where I had been. That scholarship went to someone else, and with it disappeared what I believed was my only chance at college. Life after graduation wasn't glamorous. I worked construction during the day and attended community college classes at night whenever I could afford them. There were weeks when I survived on instant noodles and coffee. Friends bought homes while I rented tiny apartments. They posted vacation photos while I counted every dollar before filling my gas tank. Still, I refused to quit. Years passed. Through determination, countless setbacks, and the kindness of strangers who believed in me when I had almost stopped believing in myself, I earned my engineering degree. Eventually I founded a small construction company focused on rebuilding affordable housing for struggling families. We weren't the biggest company in the state, but every home we completed reminded me of the childhood I wished my sister and I had experienced. Success came slowly, honestly, and with scars that never fully disappeared. That was why I almost skipped the reunion. I didn't need to relive high school. But an old friend convinced me to come, insisting everyone had changed. I believed him. Until Mrs. Harper approached me. She looked almost exactly as I remembered, though time had softened the sharpness in her face. She smiled politely before asking whether I remembered her. Of course I did. Some people leave footprints on your heart. Others leave bruises. She congratulated me on my success because apparently several classmates had mentioned my company during the evening. Then she surprised me by admitting she had followed my career through local newspapers. Her smile slowly faded, replaced by something I hadn't expected, regret. She confessed that only years after I graduated had she learned about everything my family endured. One of my classmates had told her how I worked nights, cared for my sister, and sacrificed opportunities to keep food on the table. She said she spent years wondering how differently she might have treated me if she had simply asked one question instead of making one assumption. Her voice trembled as she admitted she had carried that guilt into retirement. For the first time in my life, I saw not the intimidating teacher from my teenage years but an aging woman burdened by mistakes she could never erase. It didn't magically erase my pain. It didn't return the scholarship or undo years of self-doubt. But it reminded me that adults are imperfect too. As we spoke, another former student joined us. Then another. Slowly, stories began to emerge. Several admitted Mrs. Harper had once encouraged them during difficult seasons. Others shared moments when her strictness had helped shape their discipline. Yet a few quietly admitted they had also felt misunderstood. Listening to everyone, I realized something important. None of us had experienced exactly the same teacher because none of us had lived exactly the same life. People carry invisible battles into every classroom, office, and relationship. Assumptions create distance. Compassion builds bridges. Mrs. Harper surprised everyone by asking if she could make a short speech later that evening. Standing before former students, she publicly apologized, not just to me but to anyone she may have judged before understanding their circumstances. She admitted that experience had taught her the difference between seeing behavior and seeing the person behind it. The room became completely silent. Many classmates wiped away tears. When she finished, she walked back toward me. This time there was no pride left in her posture. Only humility. I reached out and hugged her. Forgiveness isn't pretending the hurt never happened. Forgiveness is deciding that yesterday will no longer control tomorrow. In that embrace, I wasn't approving what had happened during my teenage years. I was freeing both of us from carrying it forever. Months later, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Harper contacted me with an idea. She wanted to create a scholarship for hardworking students facing hidden financial struggles, the kind who quietly balanced school with impossible responsibilities. She asked if my company would help sponsor it. I didn't hesitate. Today, every year, one student receives that scholarship. They aren't chosen simply for perfect grades. They're chosen because they demonstrate resilience, integrity, and quiet courage even when life feels unfair. Every recipient reminds me that kindness often begins when someone finally takes the time to ask, "Are you okay?" If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave a comment, and subscribe to Dot. Your support helps these messages of hope reach people who may desperately need them today. Special request, before this story ends, please tell us in the comments, have you ever forgiven someone who once hurt you, or are you still waiting for that moment? Your story may encourage someone else to take the first step toward healing. As I left the reunion that night, I looked back one final time at the old school building where so many painful memories had begun. Strangely, it no longer felt like a place of regret. It felt like proof that people can grow, mistakes can become lessons, and even broken chapters can lead to beautiful endings. Sometimes the person who once made you question your worth becomes the reason you discover the incredible strength that was inside you all along. And perhaps the greatest reunion isn't the one with old classmates, it's the reunion with the version of yourself that finally chooses peace over pain, kindness over bitterness, and hope over regret.